It's Tuesday, February 17th, and we have two areas where we could see some thunderstorms today. One's going to be out here in the Midwest, and the other one's going to be along the Pacific coast. And I think the Midwest is going to have a much higher chance of producing some stronger thunderstorms around the early afternoon hours today. We're going to see a little line bubble up in far eastern South Dakota and Nebraska. And I think anywhere within this circle, there's actually even going to be the potential for maybe even a couple of damaging gusts. And right here, we're going to see that these storms are going to move into a favorable environment after they get kind of sprouted up from some weak convergence along our line. Most importantly, there's going to be some weak synoptic forcing as well. And then also we have some forcing from that low pressure system back here that's going to lend some really solid shear parameters. And we're even going to have decent cape, and the moisture is going to be a bit of a hindrance, but it's not going to be completely terrible. This is going to move off until probably about 2 hours after sunset. I think that's when our potential is really going to end. Maybe this cluster in far eastern Iowa about 3 hours after sunset could be stronger. Highly doubt it would be severe though. And then from then on, it's just going to be weak, windy, nasty weather that you will see tomorrow morning in parts of western Michigan and then northeastern Wisconsin as well. And moving out here to the Pacific coast, I really see no potential that any of these storms will go severe, but there is going to be a lot of rain. There's actually a marginal chance of some flooding out here today, which means widespread 2 inches of rainfall, which I definitely believe. We can just see that we're going to have a cyclone offshore, bringing so much flow onshore, forcing up a bunch of little blip storms, even a couple of clusters. And I definitely think these could bring some stronger gusty winds, nothing severe though. And then this is going to last all the way through today, even potentially into tomorrow afternoon. And this just looks like this pattern will continue. So definitely very wet out here on the Pacific coast. Moving a little bit further to the north, you can see the same pattern, just a lot of storms coming on shore from all of that flow from our synoptic forcing. Definitely very wet, maybe a couple of strong gusts in here, but nothing severe. And these are going to be the ingredients for our Midwestern risk area. Definitely, we can see that our CAPE is going to be anywhere between 250 and 500. And then our shear parameters are going to be really, really solid. We're going to have some curvature in the low levels of our photograph. Not going to see as much extension in the deeper layers of the atmosphere out. So not as much deep layers shear. That could be one of the reasons why these storms don't last. We do have some wind veering though, and our thermodynamic profile is not looking too high. The main thing here is going to be this big bulge in the lower levels, but our convective allowing models do think that the storms will overcome that. And these storms also will likely be a bit higher based. So that's also going to increase that general threat of some wind. So I think there is actually going to be a small chance that we do see some severe storms out here in the Midwest. Those would only be for damaging winds. I don't think there's going to be a hail risk. And I think that tornado threat is going to be essentially zero here. Now, is the chance of seeing severe winds super high? No, but I do think we're definitely going to see a couple of thunderstorms with some strong gusts at the minimum. So this is going to be the area to watch for the strongest weather in the US today. But looking at the rest of the country in the morning hours today, we're going to see that system from yesterday, which is actually going to be the system that moves up here in the Midwest to cause our weather today. It's going to kind of drape down a line of some showers throughout the four corner states in the very, very early morning hours, a little bit before sunrise and then after sunrise. And then we're actually going to see pretty much all of our activity die down here in the central and southern plains. I'll explain that in a minute. Then it shifts up here to the Midwest where we could see some light misty showers as our jet stream moves up here. But of course, our main stuff is going to be closer to that main low pressure system and then frontal complex as well. Then as we move into the late night and tomorrow morning, it looks like that's going to only further bring some more weather up to the Great Lakes region. Looks very wet. Don't think any of that's going to be super strong though. Maybe some gusty winds. And then of course we see more precipitation out here on the western coast as we move into Wednesday. But that's going to be pretty much it for the rest of the US. Overall, relatively quiet. Here's what our jet stream is going to look like. And there is going to be a couple of things which definitely do make sense. One is going to be all of that flow that we were talking about in the beginning of the video coming on to the Pacific coast, bringing all those little blotches and storms, and also that low pressure cyclone bringing even more of those storms up here in the Pacific Northwest. But something that might be a little confusing is how much forcing we have here in the southern and central plains, but we're not seeing any storms there. And the main reason is because we're completely missing our moisture and instability. That's definitely not there to as high of a degree as we would need to see any storms, but we do see a little baby negative tilted trough up here in our main storm zone, helping to advect some ingredients. You actually see that when we look at the temperatures in a minute, and that is why we're seeing those storms up there, because we just have the ingredients, whereas down here in front of all this purple and stronger forcing, we do not. Now looking at our temps over the next couple of days, it's definitely going to be a warmer pattern. You can definitely tell that the spring is kind of here to stay, except as we go into next week, Monday next week. That's probably going to be one of our last big cool downs before things really start to warm up. But immediately you can see that warm air advection that I was talking about in our main storm area. But really for everywhere else, the weather isn't going to be too bad. Looks like it's going to be close to the 70s, except if you're in Texas and Florida, of course, maybe seeing close to the 80s. As we move through the day, you're going to see our systems move through. But overall, as we get to tomorrow, the temperatures aren't going to change that much. Maybe if you're up here in the far northern US, like in the Dakotas or Montana, you might notice a difference, and that would be for some freezing temperatures. But still, as we even go into Thursday, things aren't really changing that much, except if you're up here in the northern plains. But overall, for the central and southern US, things are staying the same. But as we go into the end of the week, we definitely see those cooler temperatures start to creep quite a bit more south. Now we're seeing a big zone of 50s, mid 40s, and then our freezing line is going to creep even further south. But of course, if you are in the south, still pretty warm, likely mid 70s to the highest on this scale, probably would be mid 80s. Further moving down, we can really see our kind of troughs overtake it. There's going to be an area of high pressure likely over this, really getting cold. And this is Sunday now, and we can see that those cool temperatures are even starting to reach central Florida. So this will likely be one of the last big nationwide cool downs we see before we start moving into more of a spring and summer type of pattern. Definitely can expect to see some snow with this as well. But this is going to be a really big cool down, even in parts of central Florida and then southern Texas. We're seeing mid 50s, and our freezing line probably dips down to the southeast as well.